Hey guys, welcome back. We continue with the book Cracking Codes with Python, and in this video we're going to write a program to use a brute force attack to break our transposition cipher. Let's get right into it. Let's get started with hacking the transposition cipher, and if you want to follow along, you can head over to inventwithpython.com. The link is also in the description down below. Now, with our program that we wrote in the last video that enables us to detect English text, we can brute force a message that is encrypted using the transposition cipher and see if it matches valid English. And to do that, we can head over to idle and create a new file, and we can save it as transpositionhacker.py. Now, to get started with our program, we need to import a couple of different modules. We need our detect English module that we wrote in the last video. We also need our transposition decrypt module, which we use to decrypt messages. And we also need the paperclip module so we can easily copy and paste the decrypted message later on. Now, after that, we have our main function here, and we have a message that is encrypted. Here you can see that we use 3 quotation marks, which can be used to work with a multi-line string. So what we could do, for instance, is we could move the string over multiple lines, and it would still work as a string because we have those 3 quotation marks at the beginning of our string and also at the end of our string. But in this case, I'm going to keep it in a single line because this helps make our decrypted message a lot more readable. Next up, we're calling a function called hackTransposition, which we define down here. And we pass the message that we just defined, so our encrypted message, as an argument to that function. That function here is going to return a value, and that value is going to be stored in hacked message. And then we're going to check if hacked message has a value of none. In that case, we basically failed to hack the encryption. Otherwise, if hacked message actually has a value and is not set to none, then we're going to print out that we are copying the hacked message to the clipboard. For that, of course, we need to use our paperclip module, specifically the copy function which is part of it. And we are also going to print out our hacked message. Now, inside of hackTransposition, this is where we try to decrypt our message. So again, we have the message as an argument, and we are printing out hacking to show that we actually start the hacking process. And then we notify the user that they can actually stop the process at any time by pressing Ctrl+C on Windows or Ctrl+D on macOS and Linux to basically terminate the decryption process. And if it takes extremely long to decrypt a message, that can be a good option. After that, we are starting our brute force approach. Here we are checking each key starting from a value of 1 all the way up to the length of the message, so the total number of characters in the message. And we're always printing out which key we're currently trying to decrypt our message. And then we are using our decrypt message function that we wrote previously, which is part of our transposition decrypt module, and we are passing the key that we're currently trying along with the message as arguments to that function, and the return value will be stored in decrypted text. And of course, the decrypted text might be total gibberish if the wrong key is used, or it may actually be the correct decrypted message. And in order to figure out if the decrypted text actually is something useful, we're going to use our isEnglish function, which we wrote in the last video, as part of our detect English program. So if our program detects that we actually have some English text here in our decrypted text, then we're going to print out that we have a possible encryption hack, and we're going to print out the key as well as the first 100 characters of our decrypted text. And then we can still check if the message we see makes sense to us, or we can keep on going, because we still may have a bunch of different English words in there, but it may not make any sense to us. So therefore we can verify if that is indeed a correct message. And if it is, we are going to press D. Otherwise, we can press any other key and we keep on going and basically go through the different possible keys. But if we determine that the message that is identified as English looks like a properly decrypted message, we can press D. In this case, we are checking whether the input that we provide starts with a D, and to cover the cases that we can enter lowercase or uppercase characters, we are calling upper on the input, and we are also calling strip, which removes all the white spaces from the left and the right side of our input. So if we type something starting with a D, then we're going to return the decrypted text, and that is then basically what is returned from this function, and then of course stored in hacked message. And since hacked message would have the correct message in it, we are then printing that out as a result. However, if we keep on looping through our different keys and none of the possible English sentences make any sense, so we never press D, then at the very end, once we loop through all the possible keys, we are returning none, and that means that none of the keys was able to properly decrypt our message. In this case, of course, we would print out that we failed to hack the encryption. And at the very end, of course, we always have our if statement here to actually make sure that we run our main function when we reference this module. So let's try out our code by selecting run and run module or pressing F5. And here we can see we start the hacking process. We could end it by pressing Ctrl C. We're starting with key 1, and our program identified that this is not proper English. So we continued with key 2 all the way up through key 6. And at that point we have a possible encryption hack, meaning our isEnglish function here determined that the text that was decrypted actually includes a lot of English words. And now we can have a closer look if it actually makes sense what is printed there. So for that, let's have a look. So for key 6, we get this back. Augusta Ada King Noel, Countess of Loveless. And we have a date range here was in English met. So these are the first 100 characters that we can have a look at. And this seems like a proper message. So we can press D to see the entire message. And then we can see this is a message that is printed out to us. And it's also copied to the clipboard. So we could paste it into an email, for example, or into some text document. And so using the program we wrote that detects if a text is actually English or contains a lot of English words, we were able to very quickly find the correct result here, rather than having to check every single message for every single possible key, because it would be very tedious. So now that we can see that our program is able to properly hack the message that was encrypted using the transposition cipher, we can have a closer look at some of the new concepts we learned about. And the first concept we learned about was those 3 quotation marks, which can be used to denote multi-line strings. So typically, of course, a string would always be in a single line. So as we try to enter it in a second line, we already get a syntax error here. But if we have a very long text, we can use 3 quotation marks at the beginning, and that allows us to create a multi-line string. So here, for example, we could define a string that spans multiple lines. Of course, we can still reference this. In this case here, we have a new line that's being added. Now we also saw in our program that we asked the user to provide some input, specifically pressing D, in order to confirm that the preview of the first 100 characters of a message is actually proper English, and we want to see the full message. But it's possible that a user would enter something like this, for example, some space characters, and then a D. And we still want this to be able to be recognized, so that this would still count as entering D as a value. And for that we can use the strip function, which removes white spaces to the left and right of the text. So for example, if we have something like this here, we have 3 space characters followed by D, and we call strip on it, then we can see we remove all the white space here from the left side, and we simply have the letter D here, so all the white space is removed from the left and right. This also works if we have white space, for example, only on the right side, or if we have white space to the left and right. So if we have hello here, we have some white space to the left and some to the right, and we call strip on it, then we can see hello is printed out. By default, strip always removes white space characters, but we can also remove other characters. For example, here we have hello again, but we have lowercase a letters to the left and right of it. We can remove those by simply passing the string a as an argument to the strip function, and this is going to move all the occurrences of that characters from the beginning and the end of the string. But the strip function only removes specified characters here from the beginning and the end of the string, not from the middle part. So here, for example, we have hello there, and we have lowercase a characters at the beginning of the string, at the end of the string, but also in the middle. So now when we call the strip function on that, and we pass the character a to it, we can see it's removed from the beginning of the string and the end of the string, but the middle part here still exists because, again, strip is only going to have a look at the beginning and end of the string. So now that we understand these concepts, let's have a look at the practice questions. The first question is, what does this expression evaluate to? We have hello world with some white space in front of it, and then we call the strip function on it without any arguments. And we know that by default, if we don't pass any other arguments to strip, we're going to remove white space characters from the beginning and the end of our string. So in this case here, we don't have any white space characters at the end of our string, only at the beginning. So this is going to remove the white space from the beginning of the string, and then we are just going to see hello world being returned. So let's open up our interactive shell in idle, and let's type out hello world with the white space characters at the beginning, and we're going to call strip on it. And indeed we can see those white space characters have been removed from the beginning of the string. The next question is, which characters are whitespace characters? So whitespace characters include space characters, tab characters, and new line characters. Why does hello world strip O evaluate to a string that still has O's in it? So we know that the strip function removes characters only from the beginning and the end of the string, not from the middle part, and therefore, since we don't have an O character in this case at the beginning or at the end of the string, strip is not going to remove any characters here. Let's validate that in the interactive shell. And if you have a look, we can see indeed hello world is shown, it's unchanged because we don't have the letter O at the beginning or end of our string. And the last question here is, why does this string here that starts with X's will be called strip and we pass capital X as an argument to it, why does it evaluate to a string that still has X's in it? And the answer is that strip is case sensitive, meaning if we pass a capital X letter as an argument to strip, then that's only going to remove capital X characters at the beginning and end of our string, but not lowercase x characters. So let's switch to our interactive shell and let's type this in. And indeed, if we have a look at that, we can see we still have those x's at the beginning. If of course we're going to change the argument and we change it to a lowercase x, now we can see that those x characters are indeed removed at the beginning and at the end of our string. We learned how we can use our program to detect English words that we wrote in the previous video in order to use the brute force attack to break the transposition cipher. In the next video, we're going to learn about a different kind of cipher that can be used to encrypt and decrypt messages. Feel free to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date, and see you guys in the next video.